But we begin tonight with the Justice Department's filing in response to former President Trump's request for a Florida federal judge to appoint a third party to go through records seized at Mar-a-Lago. The DOJ alleges that obstructive conduct occurred at Trump's Florida home after his legal team allegedly tried to conceal or remove certain records from investigators in the months leading up to the August 8th search. In the 36-page filing, federal prosecutors also argued appointing a special master is, quote, unnecessary and would significantly harm important government interests, including national security interests. So for more, let's bring in Scott MacFarlane. Scott is CBS News congressional correspondent. Hey there, Scott. Thanks for being here. So there's a lot to unpack here. I want to just ask right away, what are your biggest takeaways from this filing?
Hey, Caitlin, two big things. First of all, what the Department of Justice says they found during that August 8th search and what they say happened before they did the search. Let's begin with what they found. A whole lot of things they say should have and could have been turned over before they executed a search warrant, including folders, a photograph of which they showed in their court filing, that are labeled top secret, secret, in some cases HCS, which indicates they could compromise human sources of the U.S. government. They say they found 3 classified records in a desk in the 45 office, the former president's office space at Mar-a-Lago, and records they say they could have procured earlier if the Trump team had simply handed them over. That's what they found August 8th, according to their most recent court filing. But they also say they have evidence or indications of obstruction of their investigation before they executed the search warrant, before they took that unilateral step to get a judge to sign off on the search of a former president's home, that unprecedented step. The obstruction allegation in the most recent court filing for the Department of Justice just raises the stakes higher for the court hearing tomorrow in Florida.
And Scott, I think the most remarkable thing about this news is that photo, the evidence photo. Can you kind of walk us through that? I think a lot of people have seen it by now, but what do those classified markings mean?
Yeah, that photo is indicative of the things we see during law enforcement photo ops, where they stack things on the table that they seize during a search or during a raid. In this case, it's folders with the word secret on them, with top secret on them, and some level of acronyms or government speak for what could be human source, confidential source information, the types of things that were not to be at Mar-a-Lago, that were not authorized to be at Mar-a-Lago, according to the Department of Justice in this investigation. You see the image there. The former president has criticized in statements today on social media the placement of folders on the floor in a stack. But really, the photo and the final page of the court filing from the Department of Justice really epitomizes what they say they found. Things that were not supposed to be at a private residence, things that are supposed to be in the possession of the U.S. government.
And I also want to bring into our conversation CBS News senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge. Catherine, I want to kind of continue this conversation, and I'm curious what you think these new details of the filing tell us about what exactly the focus of the Justice Department is in this case.
Well, I want to just pick up on this conversation about these documents that are marked classified. If we can go back to that evidence photo that was in the filing, the recent filing, I just want to get drill down on some of the codes there. Sensitive compartmented information, or SCI, you can see that down there on the document. That is some of the most highly restricted. That, in fact, is typically used for electronic surveillance, gathering of intelligence, and it's highly restricted compartment. That means that it's really on a need-to-know basis. But I just want to remind folks at home that seeing a classified marking on a document, Caitlin, is not the entire story. It tells you that at one point it was classified, but doesn't tell us whether there was any kind of formal declassification process, as former President Trump maintains took place with these documents.
And, throughout this conversation, we've been hearing the Trump team call for a special master. Scott, we've heard this term thrown about. What exactly does this kind of role entail?
A special master is often called upon by courts to handle cases where privilege is in question, where some of the things a court has may be privileged, and a third party, an independent third party, a special master, is to conduct a review. Special masters are also ordered by courts when they're dealing with really arcane or intricate cases that require a lot of specialized knowledge. Think about patent cases or environmental matters. This case, unorthodox in so many different ways, is unorthodox according to the Justice Department because former President Trump's team is seeking a special master after federal investigators have reviewed at least some, if not all, of the records in question. They've already looked at them. What's more, the Department of Justice is arguing unambiguously in their most recent motion that the records needn't be reviewed for possible return to the former president because those records, the Department of Justice says, belong to the U.S. government, not to Donald Trump, Caitlin.
And Catherine, going off that, is there anything in this filing that would open the door to a third party looking at this for a special master to be appointed?
Well, just to pick up on another point with the special master, when you look at that filing, what seems very clear to me now is that the central issue in this sort of very preliminary stages of this investigation focuses on obstruction. But when you get to the issue of a special master, you see that the Justice Department leaves the door open to the potential appointment by this Florida court. And it says that if you're going to appoint a special master, we want to have a list of individuals who are agreed upon by both parties. We also want this individual to do a sworn affidavit as to whether they may have any biases or conflicts. And then lastly, they argue that they're going to have a very high-level security clearance in order to sift through these records to determine, in their view, what is attorney-client privilege. This issue of executive privilege really will be litigated elsewhere. But at the end of the day, the appointment of a special master would be a setback from the viewpoint of the Justice Department because it would slow down the process.
All right, a lot to unpack here on this story and more to come tomorrow. Certainly, Catherine Herridge and Scott MacFarlane, thank you both. We appreciate it.